Kim, it's so nice to have you here and talking with you. We have such a similar background, and I love anything about sewing. But I've never done some of the different types of embroidery. Just straight stitch embroidery, I guess, is what mine was, because when I was a little girl, my grandmother gave me a set of tea towels, and I got to pick the colors of floss, everything that she had taught me to do. So I'm really anxious to learn about this type, which is smocking, but I thought it was only for little kids' clothes, and I don't have little kids anymore.
Oh, well, there's some other things we can do with it. Smocking basically means embroidery on pleats or embroidery that makes pleats. An embroidery that makes pleats is like this lattice smocking that was popular in the 1950s and 60s, and it was really good for heavier fabrics or
It is stretchy.
household items like pillow tops. And with this one, you take a flat piece of fabric, you stitch in a certain order, and it creates this lattice pattern like you can see.
The back's as pretty as the front, I think.
Well, there's some long
Yeah.
stitches which you probably can't see on
No.
the camera because you use a thread that matches it. But really, starting out on tea towels is a great place to begin your embroidery journey.
Well, let's talk about where smocking came from. It's an old, old art.
Yes, nowadays we mostly think about smocking as being for children, but interestingly enough, it began on men's agricultural work clothes in Great Britain. And you had what you called a traditional English smock, which this is a sample of. And the reason...
They look so fragile, but they were really very sturdy.
Yes, because you use a linen, and that's such a durable fabric. And the reason it was so good for men who were doing active work is because it's stretchy. So before
Across
you
the
had
chest
elastic, you had it across the chest and across the sleeves and the shoulders, places that people were working. And the round smock, which
this
this
is
is
the
an
same
example.
as-
Exactly, the front and the back, because garments used to be a lot more precious when everything was hand spun and hand woven. So a garment that could be worn back to front was a really good idea because it extended the life of the garment. So if you were doing something, say sheep shearing, where you're holding it against your body or cutting grain with a scythe, the front of the garment's going to get a lot more wear. But eventually, when mechanization came to agriculture, these loose garments became a hazard around the
They could
machinery.
get caught in the machinery.
Exactly.
Okay.
So at that point, they became more ceremonial.
Well, and this is what I think of as typical smocking.
Yes.
I just think little
This is one of the
children's
most
clothes are-
classic styles. This is an English smock, and if you think about it, what children have in common with agricultural workers is they're very active.
They move a lot.
Yes, so the stretch is really good because you can put a deep hem in a little girl's dress, and as she grows taller, you can let it down. But if you have a smocked garment that allows some stretch, as she gets a little bit larger around, you have a little more give.
A little more wear out of it,
And
too.
this one is called a drop yoke dress because you have a yoke and your smocking goes across here. Then the other style of children's garment, little girl garment in particular, that's very popular is called a bishop.
And was it always done on white?
No, a lot of times it's done on pastel colors. You can do it on darker colors, but most of the patterns that you see, I think because they photograph better, are going to be on a off-white or ivory. But the thing that's so nice about this garment for little girls is it's smocked all the way around. So when they're running away from you, you can see it on both sides.
And another example of the deep hem, so as they grow, they can still wear
as
it.
you know from doing regular sewing, when you have a lot of weight at the top of the garment, you want to balance it with some weight at the bottom. So the
point.
heavy hem keeps these in place when they're being worn. And those are geometric smocking. If you look at them, the pattern really doesn't make a picture of any kind. But the other kind of smocking that we do is called picture smocking. And if you look at that, you can see we have a heart, a bunny, a Christmas tree, a basket, and an apple. And picture smocking is more suggestive than really detailed, because if you have a triangle and you put whiskers and ears on it, you get a bunny. If you put two triangles together, you have Christmas tree. But this sort of thing is used across the chest on more tailored garments like little boy overalls. It's really cute if you want to smock teddy bears or sailboats or whatever for a son or a grandson.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
One other example we mentioned about, I asked you if it was always on whites, and
Yes.
this is an example of using a dark fabric. This is an apron.
Right, this is a half apron, and smocking is good anytime you want to decorate a lot of gathers. So for this, we just are decorating the gathers, and we don't really want it to stretch like we do on the other garments. So
Oh, so the grosgrain ribbon?
this is
that
called
what
a
that is?
stay. Yes,
A
this-
stay.
just a piece of grosgrain ribbon that's the length that I wanted the front of the waist to be, and I just sewed it on there.
So it does have a little give just to look pretty because it forms
Right.
those the
The
flares
gathers
or
and
the
the
gathers.
pleats.
I see.
And the other thing that's kind of fun to do with smocking are Christmas ornaments. If
Oh,
I might.
right.
Because when you have, the thing about smocking that's good with a ball is it stretches. Because if you try to put a flat embroidery
Right.
around
Piece of-
a round, it's not going to conform to the
You've
shape.
got to gather up the top and the bottom, and that may not be the look you're looking
Right,
for.
and it's going to puff out all over the place. And I like a lot of glitter at Christmas, so as I was smocking, I just pick up a bead with the stitches as I went around. So it was really kind of quick to do because you didn't have to go back and sew all these beads on.
That's clever. So we
Yeah.
can also make pillow tops. We don't have to make it just for clothing.
Absolutely
that's-
not. In fact, I've even seen cafe curtains where they smock the top. But you'd have to be really dedicated. That'd be a lot of
That'd
stitches.
be a lot of stitches. Well, and last but not least, this is another example. This is just a binder. You
Right,
buy
this
at
is
the-
a notebook. I think we all have done scrapbooking to some degree or another, and I wanted something kind of pretty for a guest book.
Oh,
So I thought it would be fun to have a guest book that was decorated.
and this is done just like this,
Yes,
the red piece was done.
It's just a
And it's-
straight piece, and it's very much like the book covers we used to make in school. If you open it up, it just has two flaps that are pockets
That slip over
and
the-
you just slide the notebook in there. So it's pretty easy.
Well, it really, you make it sound really easy, and and having it already done, I'm into it right now.
Oh, well, I am so glad.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate you being here and just giving us an idea if we want to start smocking, how to do it. You said it's a fairly easy one for beginners to take up.
Absolutely, because when you're doing something like on the apron, the geometric smocking, you do the same stitch all the way across the piece. So you're not changing threads a lot.
Repetition. I like
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you
Absolutely
coming.
my pleasure. Thank you.